All right, and it is now up to the Senate to come up with a fiscal cliff compromise. That's because the House failed to work out a plan, and we are joined by two House members, Democratic Congressman Marcy Kaptur and Republican Congressman Tom McClintock. Thank you for being with us. And Representative Kaptur, let's start with you.
Thank you.
You know, during the presidential debates, I think it might have been the final one, President Obama said flatly, we are not going to go over the fiscal cliff. It's not going to happen. Is that still the case, do you think?
Well, that's been President Obama's position. It's my position. It's the position of the Democratic caucus in the House. It's the position of the Democratic caucus in the Senate. The problem has been in the House, sadly, where there is a serious split on the Republican side of the aisle, and we were unable to reach resolution, compromise, to find the scrimmage line, to make the compromise, but to keep the ball moving forward so we can continue economic growth. You saw that because of the lack of that compromise, even the sales during the holiday season were not as great as anticipated. People are already factoring in, the middle class is saying, hey, maybe I won't get my tax benefits. Maybe my taxes will be raised by $2,200 a year come January. And it's already having a downdraft on the economy. It's very irresponsible.
All right,
people here in
Representative
Ohio want this solved.
Okay, Representative McClintock. So your Democratic colleague just said the problem is division among the Republicans. And here I thought it was a Republican-Democrat thing. What do you say, sir?
Well, I think it's both. I think there's plenty of blame to go around on both sides. The Democrats are to blame for a eat-the-rich ideological crusade that the Congressional Budget Office and Ernst & Young warn will destroy between 200 and 700,000 middle-class jobs. Republicans are to blame for not realizing that if we can't save everybody from these ruinous tax increases, we at least ought to try to save as many people as possible. That's the impasse. And ultimately, I think the leadership of the House is responsible for not having the House in session right now to be hammering this out. You know, Marcy and I can trade charges back and forth on TV, but we're not in the same room to actually deliberate as the legislative process is designed to do. We need to be back in Washington. I'm embarrassed to be talking to you from my district right now, and when the House should be in Washington hammering this out. Indeed.
Rep. Kaptur, give some advice to your Senate colleagues. Should the Democrats be so fiercely in favor of taxing the rich that they let us go off the fiscal cliff if the Republicans refuse?
You know what I've been saying? I've been saying, look, if it's $2,200 for the average middle-class family that's at risk here, if we don't act, why don't we just give everybody $2,200, including the rich? They won't get $108,000 more. They'll get $2,200 in benefit. I don't know if Congressman McClintock can agree with me on that, but it seems to me if we were in a room, if we were able to get the committees to work in a normal way, we could reach agreement. We are basically waiting for a few leaders to try to reach agreement, and I wish Senator Reid great luck over in the Senate, because the ball is sadly in their court, because the House, where all spending bills, where all these budget decisions should start, is stuck. It's stuck, unable to discuss, as we've been discussing together on this show.
Yes, Representative McClintock, if she wasn't being ironic or sarcastic, I think that the representative just said, fine, keep taxes where they are for everyone, even if it means we can't soak the rich. What do you say?
Well, as much as it pains me to agree with Marcy, I think she's absolutely right on this point that when did we stop teaching civics in school? The president is not part of the legislative branch. He is not part of the deliberative process. He heads a separate branch of government with an altogether different function. The House and the Senate were designed to act independently of each other, come up with their own plans, and once they have done so, then we have a conference process that has evolved over centuries. It's very good at resolving the differences between the two houses. Unfortunately, that process has not been invoked. It is now degenerated into a situation where a couple of legislative leaders and the president sit down behind closed doors, come up with a clever scheme, and then drop it in the laps of the Senate and the House for a take-it-or-leave-it vote. That process doesn't work very well. Bad process produces bad policy, and that's where I fault the leadership.
All right. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for being with us. And it sounds like we ought to lock out the leaders and let the rank-and-file members of Congress get involved and take this baby over. Good luck to you, and thanks very much for being with us.
My sleigh's been hooked up for days. I'm ready to go back. Okay.